Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, depending upon where you are in the world. Welcome to the very first TEA Talk. My name is Clara Rice. I am the chair of the Themed Entertainment Association's NextGen Committee. And on behalf of all of us on the call today, we are happy to have you with us. We have about 200 students participating from around the world, so we anticipate some great questions. But I'd like to send a special shout out to those logging in from my alma mater, Grinnell College. Go Pioneers! We look forward to helping all of you discover what themed entertainment is all about and the myriad of career possibilities available to you within, as well as a little bit about the Themed Entertainment Association, or TEA, and how we might be able to help you on your professional journey. There are a myriad of projects in the Themed Entertainment Association, and I'm going to showcase a little bit of them, the breadth and depth of those projects here today. The first, we also want to build your understanding of an industry that might be a little new to you, but that is the professional home of tens of thousands of people around the world. The images you see here represent just some of the projects that were recognized with THEA Awards this year, our equivalent of the Oscars. As you can see, they cover a wide variety of fields, from the Cirque du Soleil show, Michael Jackson won, to Gardens by the Bay, a botanical garden in Singapore, to Titanic Belfast, a museum in Northern Ireland dedicated to that ill-fated 1912 voyage, to a multi-dimensional live show at Universal Studios Japan, to a one-of-a-kind carousel in Nantes, France. We're going to talk about careers in the industry. We're going to talk about an industry association that we all belong to that represents the people who work in the industry. And then, if you're interested, we'll begin to connect you to our industry, its people, and perhaps a career path you may have never considered. Defining the industry is difficult because the range of projects that we consider to be themed entertainment or experience design is ever expanding. While theme parks are part of the industry, they're certainly not all of it, as you can see here. It all boils down to creating extraordinary experiences. Experiences that move, transform, and educate. Experiences that create lifelong memories and bring people together. That transcend language barriers and cultural differences. So what is themed entertainment? Themed entertainment constitutes just such experiences. Themed entertainment experiences are designed and curated visitor experiences that add integrated storytelling and entertainment to built environments, installations, and events at an ever-growing list of destinations worldwide. The storytelling is where we, and perhaps someday you, come in, a facet in which you can apply the technical, creative, and leadership skills that you're already learning in your curriculum. So a little bit about the TEA before we begin. The TEA is a nonprofit global business association representing the creators of compelling experiences worldwide. It was founded over 20 years ago by a group of visionaries who wanted to provide a collective voice to the growing number of entrepreneurial companies in themed entertainment. It has grown from a 40-member regional association to a global association with 1,000 members representing 8,000 people worldwide. Company members include the Walt Disney Company, SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, NBC Universal, Cedar Fair Entertainment Company, Europa Park, and many others. The purpose of our committee is to connect students, faculty, and recent graduates to the TEA's industry, organization, and members, supporting and fostering the next generation of themed entertainment industry professionals. Currently, there are 200 TEA NextGen members and growing rapidly. We'll talk about how you can become a member a little later. This graphic gives you a sense of what our member companies do. As you can see, the number of jobs available out there is extremely diverse, from characteristically creative jobs like illustration and animation, to technical jobs like engineering, to more business-centric jobs like production, marketing, and administration. So now it's time to give you a sense of how some of our members got to where they are today. But first, I'm going to turn it over to TEA Talks lead and our resident technical guru, Joe Fox, who's going to give you a quick summary of how today's presentation will work and how you can be a part of it.
Thank you very much, Clara. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Fox. I'm a project engineer with Burkett Engineering, and I am the lead for this TEA Talks NextGen web series. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our event today. As Clara said, we're very excited about sharing these experiences with you, and I've got 5 very wonderful panelists that I am more than happy to introduce to you. Just quickly, if you want to ask a question of any of our panelists, there are 2 methods you can use. There is a section over on your control panel called Questions, very aptly named. So you can click on Questions and type in a question and send it to us, and we will answer them to the best of our abilities. There are some questions that we won't be able to answer. This is an industry that is very good about protecting its content, so there are some questions that we may or may not be able to answer, but we will do our best to address all of them. If for some reason you can't get the questions to work for you, have no fear. Just send a question via the chat mechanism to me, Joe Fox, and I will take care of you there. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the TEA current president, Christine Kerr. And Christine, take it away.
Thank you very much, Joe, and welcome to everyone. As Joe said, I am not only the president of the Themed Entertainment Association, I'm also vice president at BAM Productions based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I'm going too quickly here. Sorry about that. I'm going to go way back to start at the roots of my career. I have an honors degree in drama from Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. Queen's is a very academic institution. Most of my theater education was more like an English or history degree than an actual theater degree, and we got no credit generally for the practical work that we did in production. But 2 key things influenced me. The first was that in my 4th year, I had an opportunity to participate in a special program where we formed a theater company. 12 of us were selected, and we were responsible for everything from front of house budgets. We had to design, direct, act, and stage manage, and that was a fantastic experience. We ran a business for a year, and we produced a season of 5 shows. I also had an opportunity to do the same thing with the university's Musical Theater Association, and both of those things gave me a real understanding of theater as a business. The other key thing, was that I had a skill. I could sew. I had acted in shows, and that photo that you see there is my husband, my future husband, and I performing a scene from, you guessed it, Taming of the Shrew. But it was my skill as a costumer that got me my first job in the industry. And I graduated the year Canada's Wonderland opened. And Canada's Wonderland, as many of you will know, is now a Cedar Fair Park located north of Toronto. And I started my career working seasonally as a costumer. And I will have to admit that I didn't have a burning desire to work at a theme park. I had been to the Magic Kingdom before, but this was something very new and very exciting, and it was a first for Canada. And I spent 10 years at Canada's Wonderland. I moved through the ranks of the entertainment department and demonstrated that I had other skills besides sewing, and took advantage of every opportunity that was presented to me to get involved in the department in other ways. I worked seasonally for 3 seasons. Then I became full-time, and then I became the director of the department. And this industry is one of great opportunities, and that's really key. I was exposed to so many things. I ran a 15,000-seat concert facility. I planned, produced beautiful entertainment, and learned about park operations. And that took me to my next opportunity, which was working at the CN Tower in Toronto. This was a tourist attraction, but I was involved not only in customer service as the director of guest service and new programs, but also in new capital projects, the glass floor, new lighting, and the renovation of Tour of the Universe into a new simulator theater. All great ways to apply my learning from Canada's Wonderland. I then had an opportunity to move first to England and then to California as the Director of Operations for 2 brand new Legoland parks, the first to be built outside of Denmark. And this was an amazing opportunity because I was embedded with the design and construction team and got to participate in things from a creative point of view and look at them from a practical point of view and see how they would actually come to life in the parks. And then I got to operate the parks. So the decisions I'd made and the things that I influenced were really, really important. I was responsible for developing all the live entertainment programs, all the special event programs, and general things like I got to participate in the development of the logo for the parks that is still used today. When it was time to move back home, I joined BAM Productions in Toronto, and we do some very different things that are all still related to what I learned in my time on the client side of things. We are a creative production agency that designs and produces amazing experiences. We work in the world of culture, primarily designing and producing exhibits for museums and science centers, but we also create and produce events for clients in the world of sports. The National Hockey League and their outdoor games, we project manage, and Major League Baseball are 2 of our biggest clients. We're also currently in a partnership with 5 Currents out of California to produce the closing ceremonies for the Pan Am Games. I have a few quick words of advice. My time is almost up here, but these are the things I would share with you. Don't pigeonhole yourself by setting too narrow a job or career target. Use your skills as a means to an end, even if you don't know what the end is. Offer to take on other things, extracurricular things. Extracurricular activities in the office give you an important way to demonstrate your talent. Transition from your groupie self to your professional self. So employers appreciate the fact that you know a lot about their park or their museum or their work, but become the professional that will take you through the rest of your career. And finally, attitude is everything. Thank you. And now,
Thank you very much, Christine. Christine is our illustrious leader, and we really do appreciate her taking the time from her day to join us. And if you have any questions for Christine, go ahead and send those in via the question. We've already got a couple of questions coming in, so thank you very much for that. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Alex Courting, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you and tell him all about his themed entertainment company. Alex, over to you.
Thanks, Joe, and hello, everyone. I'm from Germany. I'm living in Berlin, and awesome. Great, so I'm going to start it with pictures. And I have a background basically of enthusiast, I would say. Ever since I stepped into a theme park and I was 6 years old, and it was a very small park in like an hour's drive away from my house called Fort Fun. I was hooked on the concept of theme parks and all the things that made it special. So ever since, I was a big fan of those. And I never though thought that I could actually become a designer for it. It was not something I had on my mind. I knew I wanted to become a designer of some sorts. I made internships as a graphic designer, which was okay, and then continued onwards. And eventually studied interior architecture, basically to have something solid as an education. And I did that in Trier in Germany, and also did a semester abroad in Jordan, which was quite exciting, and I can recommend going abroad to anyone. And so the first thing I want to show you is the very first project I drew, and that was still in high school, and it's terribly simple, as you can see. And it was after we did a class trip to Rome and we went to visit some catacombs outside the city that I had this moment where I thought, how amazing would this be as an attraction with some additional elements? And you see on the top, I drew up a little themed area of a Roman suburb with a big tower that would include a threefold tower, and the queue was going through the catacombs, and you on the way would encounter a professor or some crazy guy who would send you up in that tower. And the other concept was a dark ride through the burning Rome that Emperor Nero had put on fire, and you would be carried through it backwards with in a prison cage drawn by horses. So that was the first dark ride concept. And these I started showing to people. And what I did in 2004, so 10 years ago, was I went to my first conference and got connected to other people from this industry. It was the Tile conference in Maastricht by then. And it was basically one of those expos, and I would show my drawings and a couple of other ones I had made around and show it to people if they wanted to see it or not. And it turned out that quite some months later, I got a call from Christian Alves, who then worked at a small park in Germany that needed a new entrance gate to their park. And he remembered my drawings and said, well, if you want to give it a try, feel free to design us a new gate. Can't promise you anything that it's going to be built, but give it a try. And so I did, sit down. It was still before my university, actually, and I drew up this gate, kind of Art Nouveau style, and including a Ferris wheel that would, in the original sketch, go through the passageway of the people. And, well, they actually built it, and that was pretty amazing. And from then on, I was actually kind of working part-time as a designer, or getting my feet into this industry by recommendations mostly. So I got recommended to a couple of smaller regional theme parks. Yeah, thanks for. And I started drawing little areas or attractions for them, and step by step got to design bigger ones, got recommended to other clients. And for example, I worked for Tripsdrill in Germany, Holiday Park, then some parks in Portugal, Zumarine and Badoca. And I worked for one summer, I worked in a design company in a town in Germany. We worked on parks in Egypt and Ukraine. And that eventually brought me, after a long time of studying, because there was not enough time for that besides all the work, brought me here to Berlin, finally graduated and freelancing from here with a solid client base. And on this slide here, you can see basically what I've been doing lately, which was for a theming vendor. I got really lucky to do work for a big park in France that would open that new attraction with the rats, and we would provide giant scenic objects. So that was basically my first step into project management, because of course they had their own designs, and so we did the production coordination and the art direction, from the designs to the actual built things like the giant cookbooks, giant wine bottles and so on. And then on the left side, you see what I'm working on right now for Hansa Park, a giant hypercoaster with a dark ride and lots of amazing elements. And that is keeping me busy right now. That and lots of other projects in the park. Oh, I see. My time is up. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. And if you have a question for Alex, I've got at least one already in the queue that's specific about Germany. If you have a question for Alex, please do send it in to us, and we will get it asked and answered, hopefully. I am very excited to introduce our next panelist, a very good friend of mine, the fabulous Marissa Blake. And Marissa, introduce yourself for us, if you would, and I will turn over control for your slides.
Great. Thank you, Joe Fox. I am Marissa Blake. I am an entertainment interior designer at VOA, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I got my start. So at my first TEA summit about 2 years ago, Joe Rohde asked the audience, what is the theme of Disney's Main Street? And he got a lot of answers until he finally settled on about 1890 to 1910's Main Street. And if I'm misquoting any of this, I apologize. But he immediately corrected us and said, that's actually not a theme. The theme of Main Street is prosperity or success. And that seems to be the theme of all of our talks today. So I have kind of 5 guidelines I've followed in order to reach that theme of success. And the definitions I have up here on the screen, I think are touching on what we use theme in our industry, but I think that's a total other discussion for another day. So the first guideline would be to follow your heart. And the reason why I say that is because from the get-go, from the toy days of Barbies and Legos, I have been a story writer. I've loved to tell stories. I've always created elaborate stories about whether we were playing house, and Ken and Barbie got a flat tire, and that's why they had to stop and meet this monster, or whether we were performing plays for my parents. Actually, my best friend shown there in the bottom center and I wrote a play in 3rd grade that our classmates had to act out about mice from Texas, cats from Peoria, and hamsters from New Hampshire, and they loved it. And this may seem kind of trivial and silly to you, but I think that because I've never let go of that passion, and it's actually helped me get to where I am today. So the second theme, or guideline, I should say, is trust in what you know. So I started my career at Tulane University, where I started in architecture, and about after a year and a half, I knew that I wanted to work with architects, but actually focus on the interior. So I followed my heart and switched into creative writing and ceramics. And actually, those skill sets that I learned both in my art classes and my creative writing classes, I still use day-to-day at work. After Tulane, I went into SCAD, where I was immediately thrown into a high-level interior design studio while I was earning my master's in interior design. And this really taught me how to become a problem solver, because if the professor wasn't going to give me the answer, which was the case, I am grateful for that, I really had to learn how to land on my feet and go find the answer. And I'm also really grateful to my peers at SCAD and also my peers today and at VOA and WDI who are always willing to help. So I find that your peer-to-peer relationships are incredibly important. So the third one, network, network, network. While at SCAD, I fell into the themed entertainment classes. I had heard rumored of them, and I went looking for them. I was grateful to meet George Head and Mike Devine, who were nothing but welcoming and encouraging, and encouraged me to go to my first IAPA, November 2012, which I did, and my mouth hit the floor when I walked on this floor of IAPA. I immediately had found my niche in the themed entertainment world and in interior design world. So I focused all of my energies then on the TEA and networking at IAPA. Actually, at my first TEA event that January 2013, I met Joanna Demora, who I now work with at VOA. So that is why I put so much effort back into the TEA NextGen, is because I am living proof that it can work if you network properly and don't give up. So don't give up on your passions. I am currently at VOA, where I have been very fortunate to work for clients such as Disney, Universal, and Merlin, working on retail dining destinations, themed attractions, and themed hotels. I've actually now am contracted out to Walt Disney Imagineering and their interiors department, where I am supporting hotel and retail projects in the parks. And so the final one is to be fearless. Now, this doesn't mean to be cocky. This means to be confident in what you know and to follow your passions. And if at some point people offer you at work to take a risk, I think you should take it. For example, when I first started at BOA, they asked me to start in the landscape architecture team, and I said, I've never studied it before, but I know AutoCAD, so let's do this. And it worked out really well. And I'm really glad I took that risk, and I learned a lot, and I was able to help them a lot. So thank you guys all for your attention, and I hope to see you all at the next DA event.
Thank you very much, Marissa. All right, so just a reminder, we are taking questions. I've got some great questions coming in, so thank you for all of those. We will get to answer them. I do have a couple of them tagged for folks already. It's my pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Jason McManus. And Jason, he's got his own title slide because he really is that cool. So I'm going to let Jason tell you a little bit about himself. Jason, all yours.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you for showing up today. I think this is a really cool opportunity to hear from a lot of people who are in the exact same position that a lot of you are. I certainly was one of those. Just to go into my story. So I was born in San Antonio, Texas. I grew up kind of in a place that I was lucky to have 2 theme parks when I was growing up. I had SeaWorld, which was close, and I also had Fiesta Texas, which was nearby. And my parents were both in the military, so we traveled often. And it's a really stressful job, so we always needed something to go around by, something to take them off of their jobs. So we went to Florida. Florida became sort of our second home. Okay, so of course, what do you do when you go to Florida? Well, Disney World is the big obvious one. So we would go all the time, and everything changed for me the minute I walked into Epcot Center. For me, as a little tiny tot walking in, it was the coolest thing. I mean, it was about human achievement and wonder and curiosity, and nothing embodied that more than toddler Jason. So immediately, I just wanted to get involved in this. Even as a little kid, I knew this is the industry I wanted to be in. I knew that people made this thing, and I want to be one of those people that make it. So in high school, I just made sure I did absolutely everything. When they give you the list of electives to do in high school, I just kind of circled the entire box and said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I was in art, and I was in theater. In theater, I wrote improv, comedy sketches, and did a lot of one-act plays and things. And I was also in marching band, and that helped me working with people and working in big groups. It's a big groupthink thing. So an art instructor, while I was in high school, encouraged me to write to people who I admired, people who were in the industry, because back in San Antonio, theme design was not sort of a big industry there. So he encouraged me to write to people in Hollywood and in Florida and different places and see if anyone would write back. So I wrote to different people. I wrote to, Bob Rogers, Gary Goddard, and John Hinch, and I was really fortunate. I didn't get letters from lawyers or anything. I actually got responses from people. John wrote me back, and these people became sort of mentors to me while I was in high school. I was really fortunate to get a lot of good advice from them, and they told me it wasn't patronizing advice either. It wasn't like, hey, keep the magic in your heart, kids. No, it was serious stuff, like focus on one core thing, but know a lot about a lot of things. And so that became sort of a prime thing that I did throughout school, the rest of school, and into college. So at the end of high school, I was a little confused. I played in a lot of punk bands and had a lot of different interesting things going on, and I didn't really have a direction. But in the back of my mind, theme parks was always sort of calling me. I think there was kind of a doubt that I could actually get into this industry back then, and I just said, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to apply into college, and I'm going to go for internships and things like that. And so I went to OU, University of Oklahoma, for a little while, and immediately in my first year, I heard back from one of the internship applications I applied for, and I got into Walt Disney Imagineering. And that was really cool. I mean, here I was in sort of the internship, the first step of my dream job. And you know, the three things that I think really helped me out is one, when I became an intern, I never said no. I did everything they asked me to do. It's sort of where I transitioned from the groupie to the professional self, you know, as Christine said. But I was really open to doing a lot of different things. So I started out as a graphic designer, actually, and from there, they brought me into different things. Like, hey, can you do some concept design? Or you know, I went into some charrettes, and from there they said, hey, what do you think about trying to do some writing? So I actually got to do a lot of different things during my internship, which was, you know, really helpful to me in my career. And this is my first piece of advice to you: is be a sponge. When you come into one of these places, or when you're around anyone in this industry, just soak in everything you can, because all of that stuff will help you out later in life. And when people see you're eager to learn this stuff, they're more likely to give you more tasks and things, and your career just blossoms from there. So I worked in the industry a little while, but I wanted to get some formal training. So I went to CalArts, which is a Walt Disney school. I applied and got in over there. Just, you know, being at Imagineering, I noticed that a lot of people had other skills that they learned in school that I didn't really have and everything. So I wanted to get that core foundation. So so I went, and CalArts is good because you can do a lot of different things at that school. There's a lot of different schools that sort of cross-pollinate. So I went specifically for animation, but I was also fortunate to get into theatrical design, which are sort of the two fundamental things of what I particularly do within this industry. And I learned from the many talented people around me. There were a lot of really good people in that school who were learning, and just as I shared what I had with them, they shared a lot of that with me. And here's my second piece of advice: make friends at school and in the TEA, wherever. Make friends and learn from them. There's a lot of people around you that have really good stuff to share, and you'll pick up a lot in your career if you just listen and collaborate with these people. You'll know these people forever, especially the people in school, if they're going into the industry. That's also why you don't date people in your school, because they'll haunt you forever. No, but seriously, these people, I work with my fellow classmates from CalArts. I see them every single day. So out of school, I was really eager to get back into the workforce, and so I applied at a lot of places. I started working with Disney again and a few other companies as a concept designer. Coming up with different things. Concept designers sort of draw the first pieces of the idea, and that led me into more directing positions. And now what I do later on in my career is I'm a creative director. And so people ask, what does a creative director do? Well, you know, creative directors are kind of the person who pieces together a lot of the information, takes different people's ideas and different sources and puts them into one place. And they ask a lot of questions like, what is the experience? What is the story? What is the theme of Main Street? That's what a creative director does, is they put themselves in the shoes of the guest. And so that's what I do. My third piece of advice, my final piece of advice to you, is learn an effective method of conveying your ideas, whatever you do. For me, I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of drawing. I'm sort of a multi-role person. That doesn't mean everyone has to be that way, but the most important skill you can have in this industry is learning how to communicate, whether it is through talking or writing out in your words, or through drawings or music, or whatever it is. Find a way to communicate, and you'll be a really effective person on a team, and that's what people look for. And so with that, I just want to thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry I went over time a little bit, but yeah, so thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Jason. And I am very happy to introduce this next gentleman. This is a gentleman who actually gave me my start in the industry and to whom I owe a great deal. He is also our president-elect of the themed entertainment industry. He will take his throne in sometime in November. And he's also the business development director for Burkett Engineering. So Steve, it's all your floor.
Thank you, Joe. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm aware I have a little bit of a background noise, so I'm going to try to talk over it. That's just the sound of all the brain waves emanating from Burkett Engineering. Do I have control of the slides, or do you, Joe?
You do have control.
If you do, advance to the next one. I do. Okay. Very good. Real quick, Burkett Engineering, we're a system integrator. All the, many of the rides and shows that you see at the, Disney and Universal, for example, you'll find the control system in there that we had a hand in. That's, when I say control system, that's the hardware and the software that makes everything move, that, controls the launch system on a roller coaster, or controls the motors that make animation work, or the safety systems that make fireworks go off, or motion systems, ride systems, show systems, lighting system, all the control systems that make those things work. And that's what we do for a living. It's a little, it's if you our goal is to be transparent. If you hear about what we're doing, it means something went wrong. So a lot of people don't even know this little field exists within entertainment, but something has to make everything go around. Next slide. There we go. Real quick on me, I spent the first 6 or 8 years at Walt Disney World. I had a great time working there. I was a weekend and summer employee while I was going to school. And the great thing about working for a big park in entertainment is you get to do a little bit of everything. I got to perform in parades, and I learned what a step ball change was, and I got to juggle for Jimmy Carter and dance with the First Lady of Bayamon, Mexico, and all kinds of wacky things that you wouldn't get to do if you were just, working at some other type job while you're going to school. It was it was in my backyard. I spent my weekends and my summers and Christmases at Disney, and my weekdays going to engineering school. When I graduated, I was hired by a little company that was designing and building the ride control system for the Norway Pavilion out at Epcot. It was a great experience. You get to learn about how the project process comes together. After that opened, also again in our backyard was Disney MGM Studios at the time and Universal Studios Florida. We had a hand in both of those parks, multiple attractions. I am unable to advance the slide. I just tried. There we go. There we go. So you learn the entire project process, and I encourage that if you're able to get, to be a part of a large project installation. You see how things are contracted. You see all the many disciplines that go together to make an attraction happen. There's just 1,001 disciplines. There's a person who is the rock work person, and the person who is just responsible for finishes, and someone else is responsible for welding, and it's a great experience. After Disney MGM and the Universal Studios Florida opened, I went to MBA school, and I was able to satisfy the requirements for the professional engineering designation. And shortly after that, was hired by Universal Planning and Development for the Islands of Adventure Development project. And I moved to California, started as a technical coordinator, and ended as a show manager for all the show equipment on Toon Lagoon. And I also was able to meet my wife on that project, so that was the best, the best project I could have. So if we could advance the slide. Through the years, everything is built on, the contacts that you make and the relationships that you make. Everything that has happened to me in this industry has turned on an individual, and it has been a great thing to watch and to be able to benefit from, and from experience, from relationships, and then help others along the way. In 2004, the president of our company went to China to try to get ahead of all the work that was coming out of China. If you read all the economic studies, the growth was happening in China and India. So 10 years ago, he went to China to try to find, to begin the banking relationships and the project relationships and the government relationships in advance of the work that he and because of the all of the efforts made then, we're benefiting from it now with the work that's happening overseas with Disney and with the Wanda Group and so forth. So next slide. I've got the things I have learned so far in the industry, what Steve has learned so far about the themed entertainment industry. Next slide. People first, in any day you've got 1,000 tasks, and some of them involve people, some of them involve things. Some of the things are a deliverable for a person, but I find that whenever I have to make the decision of what to do, take care of the people. If you take care of the people, they'll probably take care of you. So put the people first. Next slide. It's all about the hookup. Everything that has happened, good or bad, in my career has turned on an individual. So be aware of the people you meet and make the effort to make the most of those relationships. Next slide. Corollary to number 2 is it's all about the hookup, but first you have to do the homework, and meaning you need to go to school, you need to learn those skills so that when the wheel comes around where there's an opportunity, you're prepared for it. Next slide. There are only 5 people in this business. You're going to see them again and again. You'll see them on the same side of the table from you, and then the next time you'll see them on the opposite side of the table. So keep in mind you're going to see everybody. It's a small group of folks. Next slide. Drip, drip, drip. That is, networking and marketing. You don't have to make a big splash, but you need to keep putting it out there. Keep meeting those folks. Go to the events. Chat with the folks. Come around again. Send the email. People will remember you, and eventually, next slide. Nothing negative. I had a project manager early on told me that, just got right in my face and said nothing negative. So keep that in mind. There's so many variables at work when you're working on a project, so many people and personalities and goals and so forth, you just can't afford to have anything negative. So as you go forward, please remember that. And then number 7 is self-selection. I have my bachelor's in electrical engineering, and I don't do much engineering these days. I'm responsible for developing the business, and so learn those skills, but it doesn't have to define you. You can take your experience as you go forward. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so I have a great list of questions, and I want to get to all of them. So if you have a question, go ahead and please submit them. I didn't remember to mention this earlier, but if you do send in a new question, please let us know what school you're calling from or writing in from, so that we can give a shout out to all those schools out there, particularly if any of them are alma maters of our folks. So the first question I have is for, where did it go? Christine. Actually, no, I lied. I'm going to ask Clara this question first because this one I had them in the wrong order. So, Clara, what networking advice do you have for next geners who aren't lucky enough to already be in LA or Orlando?
Well, as someone who lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, I feel like I can tackle this question. I mean, certainly being on these webinars is a good start. This gets a little bit into my spiel, but as part of the NextGen program, you can have a profile on the TEA website, which can have a link to your portfolio, so people can get to know who you are. We also have some scholarship programs where you can, which could enable you to go to IACA, which for those who don't know is probably the biggest conference in our industry. It's in Orlando every year, about 5 weeks from now. And it truly does blow the mind just in depth and breadth of what is offered. So those are some opportunities. We are, create mentoring, or I wouldn't say many, create relationships with folks that with other folks that aren't in Orlando or LA. We are trying to become a bit more regional association. So if you notice that there's an event in Chicago or in Cincinnati or in Denver or wherever, or in France if you're in Europe, try to go to whatever is closest to you and start building those relationships there, or invite somebody from the TEA to come to your school. We love talking to universities around the country. So those are just a few ways you can get your foot in the door.
Excellent, thank you. We do have a question for Christine. Apologies, I do have this one ready. So Christine, how does the themed entertainment industry, in particular theme parks, market to adults when the key target audience seems to be young children?
I think it really depends on the park, but truly theme parks try to offer something for everyone, except maybe for Legoland parks. And we very clearly at the Legoland parks, we're not trying to market to teenagers, but we did see a lot of adults without the benefit of children who came to relive their past. But in general, parks put up steel roller coasters for an older age demographic, and they create experiences, like the new Enchanted Tales with Belle at Walt Disney World, at the Magic Kingdom, to appeal to their younger target demographic. And that's actually one of the great things about a theme park environment, is that you can actually provide experiences that ride shows and other activities that will appeal to either all ages within a family group, or appeal to an older age demographic going on their own without the benefit of having kids with them. And I'll also say something else. Here in Toronto, we have a new aquarium, the Ripley's Aquarium, that opened just about this time last year. And one of the things that they discovered in their very early days, which had continued for at least the first few months, and I'm not sure recently, it's located right down in the entertainment district. It's right next to the CN Tower, next to the Rogers Centre, down the road from the Air Canada Centre where the Toronto Maple Leafs play. And there are a lot of condo developments down there. And their surprise audience for an aquarium was young people between the ages of 18 and 30 just coming on their own, date night at the aquarium. So I think that, having a diverse experience with things that appeal to all demographics is really one of the goals of theme parks and attractions.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right, I have a question for Alex. This comes from Sasha. Sasha asks, she's a student at the University of Technology Berlin and expects to graduate following July, and would like to know how to come into the industry of designing the sets for theme parks out of Germany. And particularly, they know that there are parks, companies like Disney, Merlin Entertainment, and Universal, but are there smaller ones that people may not know about? And I'm sure Alex has the answer.
Right, that's a great question. So I think there are multiple ways to get involved. First of all, it would, of course, be to join NextGen and get connected in the events. That is, go to Euro Attraction Show, that basically just was, get involved in the TA SATE days that are going on like every few months all around Europe, or come to one of the mixers that happen in the various countries around here, and also in Germany, hopefully next year. And with those, you can get face-to-face to the people who work in the industry and already get, first of all, good advice and get connected. And as soon as someone knows you, they might come back to you, because I think from my experience, it's often that you turn to someone who you are already familiar with if you have a job to do. Then the next point, of course, is there are very few operators who have their own design studios in Europe. Like the ones that are coming to my mind would be Europa Park, that would be Max Solutions. They have a design studio, and of course Merlin, and I know Merlin is hiring pretty much because they have a lot going on. And you could also go work for the manufacturers directly. If I think of, we have a pretty good roller coaster manufacturer base here in Germany and Switzerland. I could imagine that they sometimes would like to provide their clients with their first ideas of how that machine could look in an actual setting. So that would be that. And of course, there's vendors, actual theming companies who design and produce things. That would be TAA, Eurovision, PNP projects, and many more. And those you can also all find on the TAA website, where there's a huge list of manufacturers also from Europe. I hope that's
excellent.
Question. Oh, and if one more point, actually, sorry. You might actually not be designing the sets directly or making the big concept arts directly, but if you can start out somewhere just doing the graphic design for their brochures and then just basically accept anything else they're looking for in someone doing it, I'm pretty sure that you can work your way up into that position and show what else you can do.
Excellent. And Christine wanted to share that one of the key points is that our TEA members work worldwide. So if you look at our website, teaconnect.org, you'll see a fantastic list of our members from all around the world. And if you reach out to them, they can help you get connected with the folks in your part of the world. So I've got 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. So my next question is for Steve. Steve, we've got a question from Randy at Daytona State College. He's a marine science major and minoring and taking some illustration classes. He's a creative guy, wants to be a zoo aquarium designer or Imagineer, and he's worried about his major being respected and being taken seriously. So how can he look qualified at themed entertainment companies with that as a background?
Hi, this is Steve. Say again the name of the major?
It's marine science.
I got to say I don't know much about that field. It sounds like a very distinguished degree to me. Within your field, I'm sorry, I would have to be educated on, where that goes and how that's used. But I think people look for the composite. They look for, okay, this is the educational background, and this is what the person is about. And they, at least when folks come through here, we look a lot toward, well, what is this person done? And it doesn't have to have been even career specific. Is has this person, if in the engineer example, are they the sort that has torn apart their car and put it back together? And maybe there's an analogy in your field, something that an employer or someone who's kind of sniffing you over can point at and say, wow, this person is really about this, and it starts to fill in the picture, and so it's not quite so heavily weighted on whether or not the degree is, completely apropos or not. Hopefully that has some merit.
Excellent.
That's just my first thought.
And one of the things I'll add to that is that there are parks that are very specific to the marine entertainment world. You can look at SeaWorld, you can look at Ocean Park, there are dozens of others that are out there doing that kind of work that you can make contact with and have that be your gateway in. So keep that in mind. And I've got a question for Jason. Jason Andrew from Penn State has a question for you. His question is, where did it go? What is the best approach for students who don't necessarily have access to a themed entertainment-ish program at their school to learn about the industry?
Well, I think it's not about having a themed entertainment program at the school. There's only a few schools right now that actually have a dedicated themed entertainment program right now. I think, the thing is you want to go through school just soaking up anything that's related, anything that's theater or art or anything that can be brought in to support ideas in entertainment. And that's a very abstract thing. So, while you're going in school, you don't necessarily need a theme entertainment program. Just try to make a connection to whatever you're doing. Even, to the last question about marine biology and everything. Just remember, there's hundreds of different degrees and different occupations within this industry, maybe even thousands of different occupations within this industry. So there's a lot of ways to get connected, and yeah, just soak up information. Go to museums and take art programs, watch movies, because all of that informs what you do and your decisions and the ideas that you come up with.
Excellent. Okay, so our next question is for Christine. Christine, as a recent grad, where do we find themed entertainment openings that don't require 5 to 10 years of experience?
All over the place. All of our member companies, or almost all of our member companies, and they represent kind of a temperature of what's happening out there in the industry, are actively looking for NextGen employees. They're looking for new blood. I know here at BAM, in the past few years, we've had at least 5 or 6 people join us who are coming straight out of school, or who have relevant experience that they've gained in summer jobs, and so they do have some experience, but they're coming to us essentially straight out of school. So I think that you'll find that there's in this industry, there's a way in that is that goes against that whole thought that you need 5 to 10 years of experience. We want people who we actually can train, and remember that you may not have the job that you think you want to have 10 years from now, because it is going to be a journey. But there are lots of opportunities that don't require that much experience. In fact, would prefer not to have that much experience.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, I have a question for Marissa. Marissa, the question I have for you is, what do you think is one of the most misunderstood parts of ID as it relates to themed entertainment?
I've worked on themed entertainment projects and non-themed entertainment projects, and I think the big thing is that the work is the same, and that's not to say it's not fun. But when you're coming down to doing code in a bathroom, the code's the same. Now, what's different is I was working on a themed bathroom, and there was a full story behind the bathroom and why we were picking this specific tile in order to fit along with the story. And to me, that's the fun part. I do love interior design with or without the theme added onto it, but it's kind of an added bonus. And so by saying that, if you don't work at a themed company for your first 2 to 3 years out of school, you're not behind by any means. You're definitely getting an excellent education. In fact, many people I've worked with on the theme side were at a non-themed company for their first 5 to 10 years, and are now are leaders at the firms I'm working at.
Excellent. Thank you. And let's see, I've got one more question for Steve. Steve, this is another one that's another degree. They want to find out if their degree is going to be a part of or a way that they could leverage that. Keith asks, he graduated with a bachelor's degree in music education, and after teaching for a year realized that that was not his interest or his passion, and he wanted to get into live show design and production. So do you think it's one of those things where you should go back and get a master's degree, or is this one of those times when it makes more sense to jump into an entry-level job and get experience?
Yes, that's a tough one, because you're talking about your life, and do I spend the next few years in school, next few years in a position somewhere? For me, I've done a lot of just following my nose. I've just kind of done the thing that was directly in front of me without a whole lot of vision, and I just sort of bumped my way around to the next opportunity that came along. If the master's that you're considering speaks to you, do it. If you come across something that is a close match career-wise that may have a possibility of taking you down a path that works for you, do it. what I wouldn't do is, when you're young, you're immortal, and you have lots of times to noodle this stuff around. But I would encourage you to just go forward in whatever it is, even if it's feels uncomfortable or you're not sure where it's leading. So the answer to take the job or take the master's, that's a tough one. Take the one that is the closest match to your passion, and I wouldn't worry. There's still time down the road to change your mind. So
maybe Marissa's advice of follow your heart is the best answer there. Excellent. So Jason, what are your favorite platforms for sharing your stories and ideas online?
Oh, geez. Well, it's a little hard for me because a lot of what I do is confidential and I can't share it online. I think DeviantArt, of course, is if you're an artist, that's a big one. Corafloat is another good one. But just find blogs and chat rooms for not chat rooms. This is not America Online. No, find forums and things for what you're interested in, and post information on there. I think it's always good to have your own portfolio site and have stuff out there, and just find every way to be visible. Twitter's becoming a huge one. I actually just got a Twitter comment right now from someone who's listening to this. So, yeah, any way in every way to share your stuff out there, I think is good, as long as it's not confidential. Don't break a contract.
Excellent advice, particularly that last bit. Christine, I've got a question for you. To what degree would someone be able to explore this career as sort of a part-time job?
It would depend on if you were a student and it was a part-time job, then there are lots of opportunities. There are also lots of people in this industry, and we know this because we know that from the TEA's point of view, that the bulk of our members are 1 to 5 person companies. There are lots of companies in this industry and people who make a career by working freelance, and that's a great way to work part-time to control your hours and control your life. So it's definitely a career where certain companies staff up for a big project and then staff down. And if you have a specific skill that could contribute to that, then you can shape your own path.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. For those of you who are good at math, you probably have realized that we're running a bit long. Our wonderful panelists have all agreed to stay a few extra minutes and answer the remaining questions. So if you need to go to class, obviously take care of those important things first. But if you're able to stay, we're going to answer a few more questions. You're welcome to watch them on the video later. So my next question is for Marissa. Marissa, we've got a question about how to break into the themed entertainment field. So this is great question for you, so take it away.
Great, thanks. I would definitely say if you can, attend one of the conferences, whether it be IAPA or EAS, AAM, come to TA events. And I find that a lot of NextGens, myself included, at one point were kind of butting up with somebody. And I really kind of encourage you, my last piece of advice was be fearless. And kind of break off from your buddy or break off from the group. And again, be fearless does not mean go interrupt someone's conversation, but patiently wait, and they'd be more than happy to talk to you. I think when we kind of corner our speakers at the TA events, it's kind of takes away from the whole idea of getting a chance to meet them, and we don't want to spoil it in any way. So anyways, I definitely say, go introduce yourself, definitely have business cards, and take a deep breath, because they understand that you may be nervous to talk to them, but they are more than willing to hear about you. And one great piece of advice we had at SATE this past weekend was be a good listener. Be willing to listen to what the person you're trying to talk to has to say, and don't make it all about you and your career, because that will come up in conversation as well.
Excellent. Christine, this is a good one for you as our fearless TEA leader. For someone with many years of themed entertainment experience who took a break from the industry, how can I get back in? Is that something TEA can help with? Should I go to IAPA as a freelance designer? How do I get back in the door?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would, go, in many ways the same advice that, Marissa just gave, it would apply. Go to IAPA, reconnect with the people, think about all the people you knew. Some of them are still going to be working in the industry, and this is a very busy, growing industry right now. So particularly if you have skills that are in demand, chances are you'll be able to connect with someone who's looking for those skills. But yeah, if you had the means to attend one of the IAPA conferences or one of our TEA events, that would be a great way to learn more about what's going on in the industry, so you can focus your efforts and then reconnect with the people that you know, which is which they're going to be key to your next opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Excuse me. We've got a question for Jason. Jason, let's see, where did it go? Walt originally recruited from his motion picture staff. Do you believe that interdisciplinary recruitment is still a positive and efficient concept, say from film and theater?
Absolutely. I'm a core believer in interdisciplinary studies. Like I've said, I think to be in this industry, you have to know a lot of stuff. It may not mean that you focus on that as your specific job description, but it's good to know a lot about a lot of things. And so breaking off in school and studying a little bit of theater and a little bit of dance and a little bit of art and everything, I think is great. Even a little bit of science, it all helps you out in the end. I mean, even with dance, I say dance because it helps you see how people move, and that's really an important thing in the theme park, people moving through your space. So yes, I'm a huge believer in learning as much as possible, and the best way to do that is through interdisciplinary studies.
And in a related question,
in my opinion.
In a related question, if your goal is to be more of a project manager or a producer, people are looking to use your organizational skills, timeline, project management, etc. How do you go down that path? And particularly, I think this keys to your experience very well.
If you're looking to be more of a producer, well, I mean, if you're the organizational type, which I am not, then yeah, I think there's a lot of roles for people. There's certainly project managers and producers, creative producers, all of that. I think there's a misconception though that if you're going down the path of a producer or a project manager, that means you have to stay away from creative stuff. That you can't exercise your creative brain. And I think that's not true. I think good companies now, what they're trying to do is get everyone involved in the creative process, bringing people in for brainstorms and charrettes, and get everyone's opinions on the table. There's a saying in this industry that there's no such thing as a bad idea, and I'm a true believer of that in the blue sky phase. So I think if you are good at organization, good at math and all that stuff, again, like I am not, I'm a creative person, not an organized person by any means, then yeah, that's a great path for you if you do have a desire to sort of be one foot in that and one foot in creative.
Just to add to that, this is Clara. I am a project manager 50% of the time, and I work on our marketing and public relations creative the other half of the time. So you can enter project manager as your project management as your one thing that we talked about earlier. But particularly at smaller companies, these 1 to 5 person companies where you kind of have to do everything, there are opportunities for you to branch out and use that creative side of your brain. And a lot of project management is creative problem solving. So there's not, how do you do this project on time, on budget, My mentor in project management said it can be good, cheap, or fast. You can choose two. All three is usually a little, sometimes out of the realm of possibilities, but you usually get two. So how do you get at least two out of those three and create a compelling experience for the guest?
Excellent advice. All right, I've got one last question I'm going to pose to our fearless leader, Christine. And Christine, this question is very, very insightful. Many individuals in themed entertainment express themselves visually, Michelle asks. Can you describe how you present your theater background and project manager skills to communicate ideas?
I'm a writer as well, and so and a talker. So being able to write in a way that clearly communicates the thinking is really important. And I also can describe things pretty well. The other really important thing to know is that I can also always hire somebody to draw what I'm thinking. So, I know many people in this industry who maybe started out drawing, but these days the tools available to a concept designer are so much, are so wide and varied. So very often I can write a fantastic brief, and then I can get a concept artist to draw what I'm thinking, and that's a great way to present. I can also, we also use lots of inspiring images that depends on the client, depends on their, their ability to interpret. Does it have to be really close to, realistic, or where are you in that process, and how are they going to kind of interpret the information you give them? So those are all the tools, though, to be able to, use to communicate. There are lots and lots of people who work in this industry who started out in theater. Most definitely. I work with people all the time who come from a theater background.
Agreed. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been a very great session. I want to thank all of our speakers for spending the time with us today. You are all very busy folks, and we do appreciate the time you spent with us today on behalf of all of our spectators. Thank you. Clara has got a few words to say to wrap us up, and then we'll let you guys get on with your day.
So we've already talked a lot about TEA NextGen and kind of what it can do for you, so I don't want to dwell on that, although I will point out, look at all these smiling, happy faces in this photograph. So if you're interested, I'm just going to go through to the last slide here. Again, a variety of benefits, and I will send you all a little bit more information about those. But if you're interested in learning more about TEA NextGen and the Themed Entertainment Association as a whole, please go to www.teaconnect.org, or you can email me at crice@jackrouse.com. We also have a social media presence, TEA NextGen on Facebook and LinkedIn, and at TEA NextGen on Twitter. Our next TEA talk will be personal branding in the elevator pitch. So how do you share your portfolio and tell what distinguishes you as a professional in 3 minutes or less? And we've got some fantastic speakers. Kyle Osier, independent creator-producer, Paul Osterhout of Universal Creative, and Camille Jenkins, an HR professional who has worked with major themed entertainment companies across the country and the world. So be sure to check in with that. Thank you so much for joining us today. No matter where your career paths may lead, we offer you nothing but the best of success. And we look forward to seeing, hearing, or reading your questions at a future TEA NextGen event. Thank you very much.